Do you have your UX case studies up, but they are not getting any interviews? Or you have your projects already there, but you haven't even built your first UX case study? Then this video is for you. Now, throughout this tutorial, I will help you understand the mindset of the HR and the designer that is going to look at your portfolio, who will decide if you should get an interview or not. I will answer the common questions beginner designers have. I will also show you some common mistakes beginner designers do on their case studies, and I will also give you my best steps so that you can improve your current case study. For the HR, what happens is they already have other 50 designers they have to look at their portfolios. So what they do usually is they are going to go through your case study and just skim. And as they are skimming, what they are looking for is usually high fidelity designs, because they might not have the design background to understand how to judge a design process. Whereas for the senior designer or the designer in the company, they are not only looking at your high fidelity design, but also your design process. Did you articulate the problem well? Did you try your research? Did you do mid fidelity design? Did you do usability testing, etc.? So usually for most companies, you are trying to satisfy two different people to actually get that initial interview. How many case studies do I actually need to begin my first job hunt as a UX designer? My advice is between 2 and 3, and if I had to pick, I would opt for 3. I know it's a lot more work, but it will give you the option to have much more breadth. The second question usually a UX designer has is, how long should my case study be? And this question also has an assumption as there is an answer for too little or also too long. Now, it is not an answer whether too little or too long. Much more important is that how you mix textual information with visual information in your case study. What I mean by this is you don't want to have too little narrative where only things that you put are high fidelity designs, but you also don't want to have too much textual information, pages after pages of text, but little enough image for keeping the person who is viewing your portfolio interested. The balance of those two different categories is much more important than length. The last question you might have in your head is, Ahmed, how do I know which projects to actually turn into case studies? Now, I'm glad to hear that, because this question assumes you have more than 3 projects in your hand and you want to pick which ones to actually show for in your portfolio. That's great, you worked very hard for this. Then I would advise you to actually look at 2 different prioritization categories. The first is that which of these works are you most proud of to have in your portfolio? Which of them did you do the best work you could have done? The second question I want you to ask is, out of all these projects, which technological groups do they fit in? Meaning, is 4 of them mobile application and 1 a web application? If you are a beginner designer, you want to have as much breadth in your portfolio as possible, because most often the companies that hire you, you are the first UX designer and they expect you to do every UX design they have in their backlog. What that means is you will do the mobile design, the web applications, and all these different stuff. So they are going to look for a portfolio that has a lot more breadth than depth. So what I would advise is to also pick projects where they actually differ in terms of the device they were designed for, maybe the techniques that you use in your research, so you can show as much breadth you have not only in the hard skills as a UX designer, but also in soft skills. Now, the first mistake I see in most portfolios is they have too little narrative, meaning most portfolio projects have just high fidelity designs attached to final deliverables that look great, but leaves the designer, not the HR, asking, okay, how did you arrive to these high fidelity designs? You got to explain your design decisions and you got to show your early work as well, because in the end of the 4th interview, when you are also gonna do portfolio presentation, you want to have these ideas and research backed up, because they are gonna ask you why you made this decision instead of that decision. The second mistake beginner designers make usually is that they don't list what kind of a role they had in a project. Especially if this is a freelancing or a job project, you have to be specific about which types of responsibilities you held throughout the whole project. Did you do the user interviews on your own or not? Did you do the usability testings on your own or not? Are all the high fidelity fidelity designs belong to you, because the designer is asking themselves when they are going through this team project is, how do I judge your competence in these following things if I don't know who actually did those things? Now, a lot of beginner designers' last mistake is they don't include next steps. What I mean by this is, if you're a beginner designer, some of your portfolio projects will be side projects that you did on your own, where you actually envisioned a need that you had and you designed for it. Nothing wrong with that. I actually still have a mobile app side project on my portfolio. Now, what I included in that portfolio piece is that I actually added my next steps. What this means is my ideas about how to turn this fake project or side project into a real thing. Who do I need to talk to make this an actual physical app? Can I have a software engineering friend take a look and see if we could do, so that the designer who is reading this, okay, there are bigger aspirations here, it's just that they didn't have enough time to keep going. Now, the first step I have for you is that you want to state your project role, duration of the project, and kind of what kind of a project it is immediately at the beginning, so that the designer doesn't have any doubts, because they have a checklist of the responsibilities a designer will have, like they have to know how to do mobile app design. They have to have handled this role in this kind of, let's say, a project. So they already understand before they even go scroll what kind of responsibilities you had, and also what kind of things they can expect to see in this portfolio piece. As I said in the problems, it is very important for you to mix your visual information with your textual information. And what I would advise for those of you who have long text and did an end-to-end UX project, just add some splash screens like I have here that actually get in certain informations and show what the designer can expect to see if they scroll to the bottom to see the high fidelity. You want them to see that work so that they don't actually just skip till the end to see if you have that UI design skill covered, because UI design skills, the craft, takes a longer time to actually learn than the qualitative UX research techniques. Another tip I have for you is to actually make your UX case study easily scrollable or easily basically skimmable through different kind of sections. For my portfolio, I have these big headlines where I am actually showing to the viewer what kind of section they are in, and they can just scroll back and up to find it. Even better would be to have a table of contents that are present in certain portfolios, because usually a designer or an HR person is interested in only one part of the portfolio first, and if that part is good and done with skill, they are gonna go through the whole thing, or they might not even go through the whole thing but just say, okay, this person can be interviewed, because they just needed that one part. Thank you so much for watching this video, and now that you understand how to construct your case studies, but if you also have problems with your UX resume and you are still not getting interviews, please watch that video so that you can get into this career.